Before we dive in, if you enjoy what you hear, be sure to subscribe so you never miss a tale. Like, share, and invite others to join us in the shadows, because fear is always better when it's shared. This story was first posted at creepypasta.org by user K.E. Moore. Title, Pills Part 5. Dr. Bell continued as though he hadn't heard her. A single milliliter is all that is required to put down a small dog. My colleague's syringe is currently holding 20. What that means is that if he were to inject this into you right now, you would die. Is this clear? Carly shook and pulled at the men restraining her, her knees bending as though she were a 4-year-old trying to throw herself onto the floor. Her words were devolving, repeated cries of, "Go! I want to go!" "This is unfortunate," Dr. Bell said despite the smile never leaving his face. Carly didn't even seem aware of what was going on around her anymore. "I told you," she hissed, "I told you. Never again. You ain't laying hands on me, never again. I told you. Next time, I'm putting a knife in you, you fucking cocksucker, and that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna fucking kill you, you don't let me go, you understand? I'm going to fucking kill you, you piece of shit. Now let me go." Dr. Bell shifted his attention to the anonymous men. "Please detain the subject for the injection." Despite Carly's struggles, her small frame was hoisted upright and rigid. "Let me go. Let me go. Dr. Vorhauer, if you would be so kind," Dr. Bell said as he motioned towards Carly with his well-manicured hand. Dr. Vorhauer nodded, and approached Carly. "No. No. I'll be good. I promise. I'm sorry. You're right. You're the king of the castle. I'm stupid. I was wrong. I'm sorry." Carly's screams had turned to moans as her head shook violently from side to side. "Please hold the subject's head still," Dr. Bell instructed, and one of the men moved behind her and gripped her by the head. "I'm sorry, Daddy. I'll be a good girl. I promise. You can do whatever you want. I won't tell anyone. Just please don't hit me again," Carly pleaded. By the time Dr. Vorhauer held the needle against Carly's skin, she seemed no longer capable of words, her voice now nothing more than scared, pained moans. We watched as the cold metal of the needle disappeared into her weathered skin, brittle and leathery. Carly was whimpering now. Vorhauer pushed in the plunger and the black liquid disappeared 1 milliliter at a time until there was nothing left. The noises she made after were unlike anything I had ever heard, the sound of a life of pain and sadness ending in misery. It sounded like she was trying to form words, but all that came out was sorrow. And then there was nothing. Her body went limp, and we knew she was gone. Dr. Bell nodded at the men that held her upright, and without a word they carried her through the double doors into the darkness beyond. The 2 doctors stayed behind. "We apologize for this inconvenience and encourage you to enjoy the rest of your day," Dr. Bell said, his smile as gracious as ever. Stunned, no one said a thing as the 2 men turned their backs on us and disappeared, closing the doors behind them. "All remaining test subjects will recommence their regular daily activities," Dr. Brune's voice said. When Amy and I failed to move from our spot, the voice repeated, "All remaining test subjects will recommence their regular daily activities or face termination." I looked at Amy. Amy, when we started this thing, she seemed so confident, so sure of herself. Amy was the product of the streets, of the worst life had to throw at anyone. She was tough, smart, resilient. Now she was barely able to hold herself together. I slipped an arm around her shoulders and held her close. "Come on," I said, trying desperately not to cry. "Let's just go." I could feel her head nod against my chest and we ambled away from Carly. We ambled away from her ghost. The rest of the day was passed in relative silence. Frank watched his movies, chuckling every now and then, his laughter the sound of pebbles scraping against each other. Meanwhile, Amy didn't have anything to say. I wanted to talk, to find some way to ease her fears, but the words just weren't there. We tried playing video games for a while, but she seemed unable or unwilling to use her controller. Eventually I took the controller from her, and led her to a recliner where we watched movies, Amy sitting on the arm of the chair and leaning against me as my arm wrapped around her waist. I guess we both knew what was coming. We just figured there wasn't any point in talking about it. It was almost as though if we pretended the horror wasn't real, it might never come. Maybe, if we didn't talk, and we didn't think, night wouldn't come. If we did it just right, there wouldn't be the darkness, and the screams, and the blossoms of crimson blood spreading against a white backdrop. Regardless of how hard we tried, though, dinner came. Amy didn't talk because she didn't get a pill that morning. I didn't talk because I was afraid of losing her. Frank didn't talk, I guess, because he knew neither of us wanted to hear his bullshit. I wish we would have talked, though. Without the conversation, even Frank's bullshit, dinner came and went too fast, and the next thing we knew we were facing another lights out. It had been days since Frank had received his pill, and tonight would be Amy's first night without it. As I dumped my tray in the disposal receptacle, I knew that someone was going to die that night. Frank smirked evilly at us as Amy and I walked hand in hand out of the cafeteria. By now it had become routine for me to not even bother stopping by my cell, instead heading straight for Amy's. I'm ashamed to admit, though, that at least to some degree I didn't want to go. Somehow Frank had found the formula. He'd figured out how to carry on without the pill. I entertained the thought of asking Frank, but knowing the man as well as I did, I figured he'd just tell me to fuck off. Amy, on the other hand, I didn't want to think about it. I wish I could turn off that part of me that cared, but the thing was, I knew she was scared, and I knew she needed me, so when she took my hand and guided me back to her cell, I was helpless to resist. We crawled into bed together, me ready to spoon her as we had done the night before. But as I started to get comfortable, I heard her whispers in the dark, small, vulnerable, irresistible. "Make love to me, please." I did. I can't tell you how long it had been since I had been intimate with a woman. Definitely not since I had been shunted to the streets, where urine and vomit had become my cologne and the height of fashion was whatever clothing I could salvage from the local Salvation Army. But Amy, she was taut, and lithe, and melted at my touch. The sensation of being inside her was a revelation, but even that was nothing compared to her kisses, sweet and caring and desperate. I didn't last long the first time. But Amy was understanding, and after a few moments of rest, we went at it again, this time long and hard, pouring our souls into the act until we were both spent, giggling and exhausted, our sweat mingling with our struggling breaths in the perfect dark that wrapped itself around us. I fell asleep with her in my arms. When I woke up, she was gone. "Amy?" I said, my eyes bleary with sleep sweeping the room. Nothing. I checked her bathroom, but it was unused since the night before. "Amy?" I said as I left her room and started jogging down the wide hallway. Panic boiled in my gut as my jog quickly turned into a sprint. I checked the gym, and the common room, but her pink hair and slight frame were nowhere to be seen. I was about to enter the cafeteria, but something turned me away. I'm not sure what it was, exactly, but as I sit here writing this, I think I was just trying to prolong learning the truth. I wasn't ready to face the fact that Amy was gone. Out of habit, I padded my way to my cell and opened the door. I sat down on my bed, my eyes falling to my lap. I had held her, smelled her, felt her. I had loved her. The kind of life I had lived, I hadn't known that kind of love before, and now, as I write this, I'm not sure I'll have a chance to know it again. I wanted to cry. Somewhere inside, deep, that place untouched by a lifetime of hardship and pain, I did. I love Amy. Still, I just want that known, even if it doesn't really matter to the world. I love her. Eventually my eyes fell upon the desk, to where the clear plastic cup with the white pill normally sat there, waiting for me. There was nothing there. In my head I searched my room frantically, overturning the mattress, looking in the bathroom, under the desk, sprawled on all fours, and studying the carpet for the pill. But I knew better. It wasn't there. Numb, I pulled the door closed behind me. "You take the pills to keep them away." That's what they said. But they had stopped giving pills. That part of the experiment was over. I should have been overcome by grief or fear, but by the time I finally pushed my way into the cafeteria, I felt nothing. Frank sat there, slathering a piece of toast with jam, looking as though nothing wrong had happened. How could he? How dare he? Amy died last night. Carly died yesterday. Billy and Alphonse and Pedro. All gone. And here was this fat piece of shit, unconcerned about anything other than making sure he had spread enough jam onto his toast. I glared at him as I slammed my breakfast tray down onto the table. Your girlfriend's gone, I guess, he smirked. His watery eyes surveyed me, and curling his lips into a half smile he continued, and by the looks of it, someone didn't get a pill this morning. TSK TSK TSK. Fuck you, Frank, I spat. I looked down at the toast and fruits and cereal that made up my breakfast. I wasn't hungry. Listen, kid, Frank said. I've gone without the pills since the day Billy bought it, okay? Do you know why I'm still here? Why? I asked bitterly. I really didn't want to hear what the old fucker had to say, but if he was going to say it anyway, I might as well play along. Frank laughed, and I wanted to punch him. Because, kid, he said when his jowls stopped shuddering with laughter, I just don't give a shit. Listen, I've been out on the streets longer than you've been alive. Before that, I was in the war. I've seen shit you couldn't dream of. These, whatever the fuck they are, monsters, they ain't shit compared to what I've seen. Hell, if they killed me, it'd be a mercy. Maybe they should get on that then, I said, bitterness and hatred oozing throughout my words. Frank nodded. Oh, they will, trust me on that, kid. Ain't none of us getting out alive. He crammed the toast into his mouth and chewed for a little bit, his piggy eyes holding me in their gaze the whole time. Finally, after a dramatic swallow, he spoke again, but let me tell you something. Frank leaned in close, his voice dropping to a whisper. You're gonna see some shit, kid. And it don't stop with the shit Alphonse was saying either. Yeah, you're going to see the shadows move, but it gets worse, way worse. Did you know I saw what got Billy?